There are towns that rest upon the land, and then there's Jerome. More than a mile above sea level, it doesn't rest. It clings to the 30-degree slope of Cleopatra Hill, a collection of weathered brick and time-worn timber that seems to defy gravity itself. As you walk through Jerome, you feel a subtle sense of unease, as if the very ground beneath your feet is not to be trusted. This feeling is not an illusion. Today, we're heading up Cleopatra Hill to what's famously known as America's largest ghost town, Jerome, Arizona. But the story of Jerome isn't just about ghosts, it's about geology. The entire town is built on a profound and dangerous lie. The immense wealth that birthed Jerome also hollowed it out from within. To get all that copper, miners dug a staggering 88 miles of mine shafts directly underneath the town site. This dark and silent honeycomb rendered the mountain geologically unstable. The whole place is in a state of slow, unavoidable collapse.
The primary geological reason for the instability is the Verde Fault, which runs directly through the area. The combination of the natural fault line with the extensive man-made tunnels created a perfect recipe for subsidence, which is the gradual caving in or sinking of an area of land.
Exactly. This physical hazard is the key to understanding everything about the town. The very process of extracting billions in ore was simultaneously undermining its own foundation. And that physical instability, well, it's the perfect metaphor for its violent social history and its reputation for paranormal activity.
Ghosts.
In Jerome, nothing has ever been stable.
That's a bit of a stretch, don't you think? I bet the bedposts were extremely stable.
That's enough. The story is written in copper. The boom was ignited in the late 1880s by mining tycoon William A. Clark. A second bonanza was struck in 1912, when James S. Rawhide Douglas developed the Little Daisy Mine, hitting a rich vein just in time for the soaring prices of World War I. Over its 70-year lifespan, the mines produced metals worth over $1 billion.
It's hard to overstate how much money that was. $1 billion in the 1920s is the equivalent of well over $15 to $20 billion in today's money. It was an almost unimaginable fortune being pulled from a single hill.
But that kind of wealth came with the price. The lure of high-paying, high-risk mining jobs drew men from all over the world, but very few women. At its peak, Jerome's population was nearly 80% male. Because of this extreme gender imbalance, the town became a surefire moneymaker for anyone selling sin and salvation by the bottle. The first wooden building in camp wasn't a church or a general store. It was a 2-story saloon and bordello.
And according to some historical accounts, this wasn't just a byproduct of the demographics. The theory is that it was a calculated instrument of industrial control. The work in the mines was brutal, and to quell dissent, mine owner William Clark would reportedly grant his employees credits to the red light district and opium dens.
It was a tactic to keep the disgruntled and exploited workforce pacified with drink, drugs, and sex, preventing them from organizing for better wages and safer conditions. The town's sin-soaked reputation wasn't an accident. It was part of the business model. This prompted a New York newspaper in 1903 to famously brand Jerome the wickedest town in the West. The human cost fell most heavily on the women in the town's red light district, an area known as the Cribs District or Husband's Alley.
And the cribs were just what they sound like. Small, one-room shacks where prostitutes worked in horrific conditions, often seeing 30 to 80 clients a day. While some madams, like a woman named Jenny Banters, achieved wealth and status, most women were trapped in a cycle of exploitation.
It's from this nexus of violence that some of Jerome's most tragic ghost stories emerge. The spirit of Sammy Dean, a prostitute who was strangled in her crib in 1931, is said to still linger. The community center, now known as Spook Hall, was built directly over the site of the former cribs. It's haunted by the soul of another prostitute who was stabbed to death by a miner. Her apparition is seen lingering outside before vanishing into the night. Built hastily from flammable canvas and wood, the town was a tinderbox. It burned to the ground in a series of catastrophic fires, most notably in 1894 and 1899. Each time they rebuilt, eventually using more durable brick and concrete.
The social fabric was just as flammable. This peaked with the 1917 Jerome deportation. The men targeted were part of the Industrial Workers of the World, or IWW, a radical union that the mine owners saw as a direct threat to their profits. The deportation was an illegal act of vigilantism, but no one in Jerome ever faced justice for it.
But no single event captures the profound instability of Jerome better than the saga of its sliding jail. Built in 1905, it was a solid, reinforced concrete structure, intended to be a permanent symbol of law and order. But in 1938, after decades of dynamite blasting had weakened the hill, a powerful blast shook the ground. The concrete jail, a 2,500 square foot block, sheared away and began a slow slide down the mountainside, traveling 225 feet.
The jail didn't slide all at once. It was a slow creep over several weeks. For a time, it came to rest directly in the middle of Hull Avenue, and the town simply rerouted the road around the displaced building before it was eventually pushed to its current resting place.
Looming over the town is its most infamous paranormal epicenter, the Jerome Grand Hotel. But to understand its ghosts, you have to know its history as the United Verde Hospital. Built in 1927, it was a 30,000 square foot poured concrete marvel, hailed as the most modern hospital in Arizona.
It was a state-of-the-art facility. It boasted a self-service Otis elevator, X-ray laboratories, and even patient call lights, which were all considered luxury features in the 1920s.
But this monument to healing was a house of immense suffering. Over its 23 years, an estimated 9,000 people are said to have died within its walls. When the mines closed, the hospital was abandoned for more than 40 years. This long period of decay was punctuated by a final tragedy in the 1980s, when its last caretaker, a man named Manoah Hofpower, was found dead by suicide inside.
When the building was renovated and reopened as a hotel in 1996, it seemed to awaken everything that had been dormant. One of the most compelling accounts involves the spirit of a head nurse. Two independent psychics, visiting the hotel more than a year apart, both reported contact with her. They said she was agitated that her original dispensary desks had been removed from what is now the hotel's restaurant and lounge.
And the reports are incredibly varied. Guests and staff report seeing apparitions of a doctor with a clipboard and a nurse in white. The third floor is known for the spirits of children. And in a unique twist, one of the most frequently encountered spirits is a phantom cat, which guests report brushing against their legs or even feeling jump onto their beds.
And of course, there's the hotel's most famous ghost, Claude Harvey, a maintenance man found pinned beneath the Otis elevator in 1935. His death was officially ruled an accident, but the United Verde Copper Company, fearing liability, prevented an autopsy or X-ray from being performed, which has fueled suspicion of foul play ever since.
That unresolved injustice may be why his spirit is one of the most active. Staff on the graveyard shift report seeing his shadowy form and hearing him coughing and sneezing, as if still making his rounds, forever seeking justice. To find the true source of Jerome's ghosts, you have to go to the two places that define the beginning and the end of life for so many: the mines and the graveyard. The daily life of a miner was one of constant peril.
The work involved dynamite, heavy machinery, and the ever-present threat of cave-ins, underground fires, and falls down deep, dark shafts in rusted elevator cages. While the claim of 5 to 7 deaths a day is likely an exaggeration, it reflects the grim reality that a job in the mines was a dance with death.
From this underworld comes the legend of Headless Charlie, a miner decapitated in a horrific accident, whose body is said to still roam the now sealed tunnels, perpetually searching for his lost head. For those who died, the final destination was often Hodgeback Cemetery. Today, the cemetery is a grim and desolate place, a monument to neglect. The identities of hundreds buried there are lost to time. Records were thrown away in the 1950s, and many graves of poor immigrant families were never marked at all. The few remaining records paint a heartbreaking picture.
They tell of miners who burned to death in the smelter, or were crushed by rockfalls, of Officer Charles King, shot in the back in 1910 while responding to a domestic dispute, of Juan Mirabel, murdered by his wife's lover, and of countless infants and children who succumbed to diseases like influenza, often buried by their own fathers in simple pine boxes because they couldn't afford an undertaker.
It's little wonder the cemetery is a paranormal hotspot. The physical neglect of the graves is a direct manifestation of the societal neglect these workers endured in life. In death, as in life, many were simply erased. When the Phelps Dodge Corporation, which had taken over operations, closed the last mine for good in 1953, Jerome died. The population dwindled from 15,000 to as few as 50 people. The town was on the brink of extinction.
Phelps Dodge began systematically demolishing the abandoned buildings, and here's a really sad detail. They reportedly paid local children a penny a brick to salvage materials from the ruins of their own town.
But just as it was about to vanish, the Jerome Historical Society was formed. Their defiant motto was "Our past is our future." They began marketing their dying home with a new identity, America's largest ghost town, attracting artists and hippies in the 60s and 70s who would ultimately save it. And that brings Jerome's story to its final profound irony. The town now mines its own ghosts for profit, just as it once mined the earth for copper. The very history of tragedy, violence, and exploitation that nearly destroyed it has become an invaluable resource that ensures its survival.
So a strange, symbiotic relationship has formed between the living and the dead. The current residents act as curators for the spirits of the past, and those spirits provide the economic foundation that allows the town to live on.
In Jerome, the past is not dead. It's not even past. It is the town's most precious and actively exploited natural resource.
Fall You move like water and taste like wine. You're holier than I am, holier than I am. Gentle hands, gold-lit eyes. I am a man made of borrowed time. You're holier than I am, holier than I am. I am the dust, you are the rain. You pull me close, I push away. I swear I love you, but I...
Today, Jerome is known for its artsy, tourism, dining, and its scenic view overlooking the Verde Valley and the spectacular red rock cliffs of the Mogollon Rim, capped by the 13,000-foot San Francisco peaks.